So we'll see the next example. The question is, length and breadth of a rectangular field is 90 feet and 50 feet respectively. Poles are erected at a distance of 5 feet. Find the number of poles required to fence the field. So poles are erected at an interval of 5 feet and number of poles is asked. So how to find the number of poles? We'll find the full length which has to be fenced. And what is the total length? Total length is sum of all sides, that is the perimeter. So we can find the perimeter of the rectangular field and dividing it with 5 we get the number of poles. So we'll see the working. So the length that has to be fenced is the perimeter of a rectangle. So what is perimeter of a rectangle? Formula we saw earlier. So it is 2 into L plus B. So this is perimeter of a rectangle. And we are asked to find the number of poles. So how to find the number of poles? So to find the number of poles, you divide the perimeter by the distance between the poles. And finding the perimeter, dividing by the distance between the poles, number of poles is got. So here what is the length given? It is 90 feet and breadth is 50 feet. So perimeter is 2 into 90 plus 50. So which is equal to 2 into 140. So perimeter is 2 into 140, that is equal to 280 feet. And how many poles will be required to fence this length? Where distance between the poles is 5. So divide this 250 by 5, we get the number of poles. So that is equal to 280 by 5, so which is equal to 56 poles. So number of poles required equal to 280 by 5, that is 56 poles. So answer is 56. So to fence a field of length 90 feet and breadth 50 feet, we need 56 poles. The distance between the poles is given as 5. And now suppose if the question is, so here we have found the number of poles required for a rectangular field. Say to find the distance between the poles. Say you have a 100 feet road and you are going to erect 5 poles for an electric display. Say for a meeting, we need to erect 5 poles. And what should be the distance between the poles? So in this question, so distance given, number of poles asked, and in this question poles given and distance asked. So what will be the distance? So distance will be just, you can interchange this. So distance is perimeter by number of poles will give you the distance. So we'll check what happens when we divide this distance by number of poles. The full length 100, so divide by 5. So what will be the distance between the poles we get here? 20. So 20 feet is the distance which we get here. And 5 poles, it's obvious, it is clear that you should have equal intervals. Say suppose you are planting 5 poles and distance we have got as 20. So if this distance is 20, and what is the length it has covered? 20 plus 20, 40, 60, 80. So it has covered only 80 feet and it hasn't covered 100 feet. Now how to find the distance when you are talking about open length? Only for a closed field or closed shape, we name it as a perimeter. If it is an open one, it is the length. And how to find the distance between the poles when it is an open one, open length? So here we are talking about only the intervals, not the number of poles. And what will be the intervals? Intervals is the distance. It will be 1 less than the number of poles. You have to divide, we get the distance. Say suppose if it is a circular field, 5 poles are there. Now how many poles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 poles. And how many intervals? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when it is a closed field, closed shape, number of poles and intervals same. So when it is an open one, so here we have 5 poles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how many intervals? 1, 2, 3, 4. So only 4 intervals are there. So when distance is asked for a perimeter, divide by distance. Number of poles is perimeter by distance. Or when distance is asked for a closed shape, distance is perimeter by number of poles. So if you are asked to find distance for a length, that is the open one, so distance is got by length by n minus 1. So if there are 5 poles, divide by 5 minus 1, 4. So if there are 10 poles, divide by 9 to get the distance when it is a length. When it is a perimeter, divide by n to get the distance. Now what will be the distance here for this question? So if it is a 100 feet road and if you need to plant 5 poles, what will be the distance? So here length is 100 and number of poles is 5 minus 1. So it is 100 by 4. So it is 25. Now what should be the distance between the poles? It should be 25. So now what is the length it has covered? 25 plus 25, 50, and then 25, 75 and 100. So it has covered the whole 100 feet length. So whenever you are working out for length, so please remember, so when it is a perimeter, divide by number of poles. When it is a length, divide by n minus 1. Number of poles minus 1, we get the distance. And now for this question, for our question, number of poles as perimeter by distance, we get the number of poles. And we'll see how to find the number of poles when length of a road is given. So we have seen that. So I have told you that when it is a perimeter, number of poles and intervals will be same. So distance will be perimeter by n. So when it is a whole length, it's a simple length of a road. So length by n minus 1, because intervals will be 1 less than the number of poles. So you have to divide by n minus 1. So based on this, I'll give you one question, so which was asked in a previous exam. So here, so length of the road is given as 360 feet and distance between the poles is given as 20. How many poles are required? Now what will be the answer? So length is given and distance is also there. So in this, length is there, distance is there, we need n minus 1. How to calculate this n minus 1? So n minus 1 will be equal to, now we can swap the values. So write this n minus 1 and divide the length by distance. So it is length by distance. What is the length given? It is 360. Distance between the pole is 20. So dividing we get 18. Now how many poles are needed for this 360 feet length where distance is 20? So it is n minus 1 is 18. So n is equal to 90. So using this, when a length is given, dividing by n minus 1 we get the distance, or when number of poles is asked, so equating n minus 1 to length by distance, we get the value, add 1, you get the number of poles. So for this length 360 feet, distance 20, number of poles required is 19 poles. So please remember, so when it is a closed shape, it is a perimeter, divide by n for distance, for open length, divide by n minus 1. So we'll see the next example.